Hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, where we are going to talk about the Rise in India theme. I have with me Gunjan Kabra. She is the head of research at Niveshaay and manages the multiple small cases for Niveshaay. She has more than 8 years of experience into the Indian stock market. She has been conducting extensive research and publishing a research note on various themes like steel, graphite, paper, textile. Also, Gunjan, I've heard you sometime during the investor calls that happen during the quarterly investor meets, and the quality questions that you have been asking that really startle the company management. I've seen the in-depth questions that you ask. And it's always a pleasant surprise listening to you that you are asking some question to the company management. So, welcome to our webinar, and you can give the disclosure and then we can take it ahead.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for the very kind introduction. And I'll just share the disclosure. Yeah. So before we begin the topic, the rise of Make in India, the topic which has been, we have been very closely tracking. There's some disclosure and disclaimers that I wanted to give you. All the stocks are discussed during the webinar today will be just for educational purpose. Please consult your financial advisor and do your own due diligence before investing. It is just for education purpose and nothing else. So these are the disclosures. Niveshaay is a SEBI registered investment advisor firm, and we comply to all disclosures and disclaimers. Please consult your financial advisor. All the stock discussed here will be just for educational purpose. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for the disclosures and disclaimers. So, my first question to you is what got you interested in tracking this theme of Make in India and manufacturing as a sector? And like, where do you see this sector going, and where do you see the growth in this sector coming from?
So Aditya, this is actually a very close sector that I have been tracking since a very long time. Actually, I would say that during just the start when I just started investing, all those companies at all the sector, one thing which I've very closely seen is manufacturing. Okay, so sometimes when you go to a plant visit or you understand things because I've been brought up in a textile industry. My family is into textiles. The city where I stay in Surat is all a textile industry, and a lot of people are just into textiles. So when I actually entered this field of investing in equity markets, and then I studied how a very small business, a nut bolt business or maybe a component kind of a business actually becomes a huge business which we have never seen. I mean, if you go for a plant visit to any company or any you see a site and you recognize and you visualize the enormous usage of very small products, and these companies actually tend to become a 4,000, 5,000 crores company over time. It is just supplying a component maybe to a commercial vehicles, or it is supplying to maybe any textile machinery or any machinery or any steel capex. If there is a lot of steel capex happening, a very small component, oil and gas, very small component, these companies tend to become a 5,000, 10,000 crores company. So when I started tracking this sector, so if if I talk about my journey in this sector, I have to talk about Rain Industries Limited, because this is the company which actually taught me how to analyze business, because it's a very complex business till date I've studied. I mean, it is producing. I'm not going to delve into a lot of detail into the company, but the company manufactures raw material, which is calcined petroleum coke and coal tar pitch for aluminium industry. So it's a raw material used in aluminium industry, and this company has plants in Europe. This company has plants in US, Russia, India, and the whole metal cycle actually is governed by China right now, because China is the largest producer of metals. So, and the dynamics of the raw material for calcined petroleum coke, if you're sourcing it from the US, is completely different than you're sourcing it from China. For the Indian plants, it's completely different. So there are so many variables in the industry that is happening, and the other business, the other chemicals that you get from coal tar pitch, it has another cycle of business So when I spent so much time, 4 5 years, I have analyzed this company. And when we analyze this company, you tend to understand there are so many moving factors. And when you are tracking manufacturing as a sector, you need to be on toes, because it's an interplay of so many economies, so many cycles. So you need to be, on toes, because in that ways we got to understand, okay, this is, how. So when you analyze different companies in different industry, you tend to develop mental models over time, right? So this company taught me how to, see manufacturing as a sector. What are things that differ, which actually helped me, in investing in companies that we are invested today in our small cases also. Like for example, another company which I'll give you an example is graphite electrodes. So one policy, yeah, right? The China during 2017, what happened was that China cut down production because of pollution norms. So they wanted, there was a lot of pollution happening in China. So the government actually cut down production in all these products. Maybe, the product that Rain Industries is making, graphite electrodes, metals, paper. They wanted to cut down production to reduce pollution. And we saw the cycle of chemical manufacturing that happened in 2016 to 2020. That was one phenomena, which is China plus one, right? That time we saw how China plus one actually happened in the chemical industry also. And this graphite electrodes, when there was a cut down in the production, so when supply reduces from the largest producer of the world, and the demand is not reducing, it's increasing, then the prices shoot up. The raw material prices are not shooting up, the final prices are shooting up. And this is an industry where, there are just two players in the country. So it becomes Heg and Graphite India, right? So you see the kind of runway that this company got. And these companies actually get runway once in 10 15 years. That kind of a profit pool that these companies actually make during these times, it's just once in 10 15 years that this company, it gets good time. So basically, analyzing so many industries in manufacturing, you tend to develop some kind of mental models that, okay, if this happens, this works. Like for example, when we studied paper industry, for example, then what happened in paper industry was that in 2010 there was this supply deficit kind of a scenario, and all the paper companies in India actually expanded. And paper is a very commoditized business, right? So what happened at that point of time is that paper companies over over expanded. There was an oversupply kind of a scenario, and then the prices clashed. Then after that, because they expanded so much, so wood pulp, which is a raw material for manufacturing paper, actually there was no availability. They had to import from other countries. And in Europe, actually, what happens is that in India, we don't have like a very big wood pulp manufacturing companies from which paper companies actually source. You import it. And in the Europe and all these countries, you actually have like Suzano and all these big wood pulp companies actually manufacturing just wood pulp. So you have to source it from them. So what happens is, when they were sourcing wood pulp from outside, their cost of production increased, and that's how they realized their profitability actually fell down. And this is the time these companies actually realize what they need to do, which is very important in, when you are tracking this journey of these industries and these companies. So they decided that all JK paper, West Coast paper, they decided that they want to develop their own plantations. They want to have a raw material security. And now you see they have captive raw material security within themselves. They have their own plantations. So when the wood pulp prices, similar thing in 2017 actually happened in the paper industry also. There was a shortage of raw material supply, and the prices in the global world increased. And that's how for these companies, the raw material prices did not increase, because they had a captive source of raw material supply, right? So raw material prices not increasing, finished prices they are increasing because the global prices have increased. You can see the margin shoot up, right? So the
Correct.
point here that I want to make here is that you need to study those industries, what factors actually play out in different cycles. It becomes very easy to play. So when we played in 2017, we played it much better after the COVID time in the paper cycle, in the other capital goods cycle. So so generally these plant visits and all help us. And one so this I've been tracking this sector since this, and have developed those kind of thinking capabilities where if this works, because we invest just in ancillary play, right? So what happens is, right now, what is favoring India, why we are so bullish. If you come to our office also, we our office is actually themed as Make in India. So we India has, we have like all sections actually talk about where this growth can come in. So we have developed that kind of a scenario only. So India has paper industry, India has renewables, India has defense, India has textiles, we have capital, we have engineering capabilities, we have all the factors of production, labor cost, cheap labor cost, we have good availability of capital. So all these factors, which is important, okay, we have this kind of a presence, which China was building it up in last few years. So India has those kind of advantage. And if we want to become a $5 trillion economy in next 3 years, we have to scale up the manufacturing sector. India as a country, were agrarian, we moved to service, we skipped manufacturing. And now with the government policies, and this pandemic has, so government has been trying to do a Make in India since a very long time. And one event, which was COVID-19, it actually accelerated the trend. So when the global world was having after post the pandemic, the government actually injected liquidity in the market, direct liquidity in the market, reduced interest rates, whereas our government, they took policy measures. They have been, demonetization, GST, corporate rate tax cut that happened for corporates were reduced to 25%, PLI schemes, and making import substitution, indigenized policy, making giving export incentives, and boosting that kind of a business environment and government is taking all the right measures. So, and if you see the budget reforms that since last 2 years, lot of focus has been on capital expenditure. So what happens is, if the government is taking those capital expenditure measures, then private capex coming, and then this rekindles the investment capital formation in any country. If you see example of Japan, you see the example of China. The government, when Japan became the second largest, it was the government policy that kick-started the entire journey. In China, it is the government policy that kick-started the journey, right? And then
Right.
private capex comes in. So this is how all these levels are happening, and this time it looks, and it has been since 2020, 21. The growth in these segments, engineered goods, capital goods, infrastructure activities, it's been increasing a lot. So this is why we think that the roar is like never before for manufacturing in India, and it's going to be really really big. And if we get like a very tiny percentage also now of the global world that we export or we produce ourselves, it's going to be a multiplier effect on our small base that we have right now.
That is really
So
great.
that's how,
You said you've been
yeah.
tracking grain industries for the past 5 years. You have been tracking the paper industry very closely. So, are you able to predict what kind of results that the company can come out on a quarterly or a yearly basis? Like, do you have a mental model in place that you can predict to a certain extent where this industry or the trend of this industry is going?
So paper industry, basically, if I give you an example of paper industry, it helps you in building your, I've built those characteristics in my mind that if this happens, then if the wood pulp price increases globally, okay, and then it helps the Indian companies, because for them, all integrated players, they don't have to incur any rise in cost because of wood pulp, because they have their own source. So for any
Correct.
XYZ reason, if this is happening right now also, like I'll just give you an example, that because of the Red Sea crisis that is happening, the imports actually got delayed, and the paper prices in between, just this November December month, it actually increased 4-5%. Then we really thought that if this is the if this elongated stretch can be there, but I couldn't find the longevity of this trend right now. So right now paper prices are stagnant, right? So it has rather reduced only. So I have these things in my mind that when this happens for any XYZ reason, because it is a commodity play. JK Paper is a very very big brand, ITC is a very big brand, but I don't know when this brand play kind of a consumer valuation these companies will get. But again, right now still it is being treated as a very commoditized business. So if the spreads don't improve, then alpha will not generate. And we, being as investors, we need to be very evaluate investments relatively and not in absolute terms, right? So if we are getting a better opportunity, the growth in alternate sectors will be very high, then why not invest in those? So you need to keep track of the prices that is moving. And for rain industries, Aditya, it's a very, very dynamic business. We sometimes think that, we've got a knack of it. But again, there are so many variables in the industry. It looks very cheap. Again, it's not a recommendation, but it looks very cheap. But again, if it is looking cheap, but there are a lot of other variables in the industry also, which I do not have a hold on. I cannot. I mean, if there is a hurricane in the US, I don't know. I mean, that will also impact. If there is any production cut in China, that also impacts. If there is problem in Russia because it has plants in Russia, it also impacts. So
Correct.
again, the levers, they have been trying very hard to remove that pet coke ban and all, but now they have received, so some type of capacity utilization all will increase. It's very cheaply available, but there are too many variables in this business to handle too. So over time, what I've realized is less variables, simple businesses make investing very simple is, it should be the key. I mean, why do you want to handle so many variables in the company and where you don't have any hold on?
Got it.
Again, very good promoters, very good business, but over time, just reduce complexity in the businesses. Some kind of business risk is there in all the companies. Okay, if there is no risk in any business, I always say this, then it's not a business, right? There would be some kind of an external, but how much risk you can mitigate, how much risk is under your control, but and with less complexities should be the key. I mean, focus on very simple businesses who can scale up very fast.
Got it. Don't try to analyze too many complex businesses that have too many variables all across the world.
Yeah, that's the key.
There is just one request coming from the user base that try to talk in English and Hindi mixed so that we can understand it better.
Definitely, I'll try.
So my next question is, there is an energy transition going on. People are moving from solar and wind energy are in focus. A lot of companies like JSW Steel recently raised 5,000 crores a QIP for focusing on their power business. So where do you think this trend is going? As I've seen green energy portfolio, it has given fantastic returns. And do you still believe that the theme is yet to continue? And what are the future prospects in this theme of energy transition?
Um, See, this theme is, whenever there is an energy transition happening in any economy, it's a long term theme. क्योंकि आपने जब coal power conventional भी setup किया था ना, it took years for you to set up, है ना? तो
Correct.
energy transition, whenever it is happening, it is a very, very long term theme. It doesn't happen in just 2-3 years, right? First, because आपको पूरा infrastructure ही दूसरा बनाना है, ठीक है? तो जब मैं आपको इसका जर्नी बताऊंगी ना, कि हम लोग ने जब वी यूज टू ट्रैक सोलर एज अ सेक्टर, अभी जो बोरोसिल रिन्यूएबल करके कंपनी है, वो पहले गुजरात बोरोसिल होती थी। तो हम लोग, मेरे को याद है, हम लोग 2016-17 में देयर वाज दिस कलीग ऑफ माइन यूज्ड टू थिंक दैट गुंजन, ये सेक्टर मेरे को बहुत अच्छे से स्टडी करना है, बहुत अच्छा करेगा। इन 2016-17 यूज्ड टू थिंक दैट स्वेलेक्ट और सोबल बोरोसिल रिन्यूएबल्स, बट देन होता ये था कि उसका कॉस्ट कर्व ना सेट नहीं हुआ था, कि मतलब इट वाज वेरी एक्सपेंसिवली प्राइस्ड, पे बैक
Correct.
आरओई नहीं बैठा था फॉर एनी यूजर्स टू अडॉप्ट। Then we used to track, we used to keep, so that's what helped, right? You keep tracking, and then when the time comes up, you just have to start investing. So 2020 में COVID-19 के बाद जब सब लोग पूरे ग्लोबल वर्ल्ड में ऐसा हो गया था कि मेरे को एनर्जी, मतलब पोल्यूशन फ्री कर, पोल्यूशन, एनवायरमेंट पोल्यूशन कट डाउन करना है, यू हैव टू बी कार्नेट कार्बन जीरो एमिशंस कम करना है, कार्बन एमिशंस, एवरीथिंग, दिस वाज अ सेंट्रल टॉपिक। एंड देन व्हेन यू सी ऑल द ग्लोबल बैंक्स, वो लोग कन्वेंशनल रूट ऑफ थर्मल पावर को फिनेंस करने की जगह रिन्यूएबल की तरफ शिफ्ट कर रहे थे। तो अगर कोई ग्लोबल ट्रेंड हो रहा है ना, देन इट कम्स डाउन टू इंडिया, दैट मैक्रो लेवल से माइक्रो लेवल पे आता है। तो 2020 में आई रिमेंबर वी वर डिस्कसिंग एट निवेशाय दैट वेदर दिस थीम विल बी अडॉप्टेबल, रिन्यूएबल अडॉप्ट होगा क्या, सोलर अडॉप्ट होगा क्या, ठीक है? And now when you see fast forward in 2024 where you're sitting, अब कोई अडॉप्शन का डाउट नहीं है,
Correct.
रिन्यूएबल्स और सोलर हो रहा है, दिस इज एन एस्टैब्लिश्ड फैक्ट है ना। तो आप जब देखोगे 18 गीगावाट्स 2018 से लेके अभी 5 gigawatts, 30 gigawatts, कुछ 2021, and now we are standing at 72 gigawatts of solar installation. तो इतना फास्ट अडॉप्शन हुआ है ना, जिसकी वजह से अभी बहुत सारा प्रोडक्शन इंडिया में ही हो रहा है। पहले तो वी यूज टू इम्पोर्ट, मतलब जब हम लोग ने बोरोसिल रिन्यूएबल वाज अवेलेबल एट सच अ चीप वैल्यूएशन, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दिस सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्शन दैट हैपेंड, इंडिया सोर्सिंग इंक्रीज्ड, बोरोसिल में ग्लासेस के प्राइसेस इंक्रीज हो गए, रॉ मटेरियल के प्राइसेस अगेन एज आई मेंशन इन द प्रीवियस स्टोरीज आल्सो इट वाज नॉट इंक्रीजिंग। तो तो उससे डोमेस्टिक सोर्सिंग इंक्रीज हो गई। तो अब जब हम लोग ने देखा ना कि सोलर मॉड्यूल, जैसे जैसे आप हम लोग के तो सूरत के आसपास के आप देखोगे ना, तो बहुत सारे प्लेयर्स आर इनटू मॉड्यूल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग। दे सो मेनी प्लेयर्स, इट हैज बिकम लाइक एन हब। So 60-70% of the solar module production that is happening is in Gujarat, South Gujarat. तो बहुत मतलब वो धीरे धीरे एक ट्रेंड ऐसा सेट हुआ कि अब चलो सोलर इज द सेक्टर विच इज हैपनिंग। अब क्या हो रहा है कि हमने फिर धीरे आया कि अब तो हमें हाइब्रिड चाहिए, तो विंड सेक्टर, we need to install wind also. So we have around 40-45 kind of a gigawatt install जो 100 जाएगा। तो अपना टारगेट ये है कि 2030 तक इंडिया में जो भी पावर जो होगा वो 50% विल बी सर्व बाय रिन्यूएबल्स। तो अब क्या हो रहा है ना कि जेनरेशन साइड पे लास्ट 3-4 साल में ना बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट हो गया सोलर इंस्टॉलमेंट, जो कि अभी होते रहेगा। पर पावर सेक्टर में क्या होता है, तेरा 3 सेगमेंट्स, जेनरेशन, ट्रांसमिशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। तो जेनरेशन साइड पे तो अपन ने देख लिया, पर अब वो जेनरेट पावर हो रहा है उसको इवैक्यूएट करके आपको ग्रिड पे भी तो लेके जाना पड़ेगा ना। और हमारा जो ट्रांसमिशन सेटअप है ना, वो पूरा का पूरा रिन्यूएबल्स पे। सो इफ द सेट सॉरी थर्मल पावर पे, तो आप you need to set up new transmission network, you need to set up new distribution network. For that you will require huge investments in power. आप government headlines, $2.5 trillion government wants to invest in transmission and the distribution side. Now this has been increased to $4-5 trillion in in next 3-4 years. तो अब क्या हो रहा है ना कि इसमें अगर इतना ट्रांसमिशन साइड पे होगा तो आपकी अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर ट्रांसफॉर्मर कंपनीज, आपकी अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर टावर कंपनीज, आपने देखा होगा बड़े टावर्स लगे होते हैं, है ना। तो ट्रांसफॉर्मर कंपनीज, इफ यू हैव बीन समवन ट्रैकिंग दिस सेक्टर सिंस अ व्हाइल, तो आप देखो कि उनकी ऑर्डर बुक हैज डबल्ड इन लास्ट 3 years। मार्जिन, बिकॉज ये कैपिटल गुड्स और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में क्या होता है ना आदित्य, वी यू वांट ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज प्ले इज वेरी गुड, एंड लाइकवाइज डीलेवरेज प्ले भी होता है, पर ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज प्ले अगर किसी का यूटिलाइजेशन कम एंड दैट इंक्रीजेस, नो दैट यू विल सी सिग्निफिकेंट मार्जिन एक्सपेंशंस दैट विल हैपन। एंड ट्रांसफॉर्मर जैसा सिंपल बिजनेस, यू यूज्ड टू थिंक इनिशियली आप देखोगे ना, तब वहां पे ओवर सप्लाई काइंड ऑफ अ सिचुएशन होता है। आप भारत बिजली की एनुअल रिपोर्ट निकाल के पढ़ लो, उसमें उन लोग ने स्पेसिफिकली दे मेंशन दैट इट्स अ वेरी थिन मार्जिन बिजनेस, इट इज अ वेरी competitive business, ठीक है। पर you see the kind of growth that is happening in these industries because of अभी तो बहुत ज्यादा इंडस्ट्रियल से डिमांड आया, पावर से तो अब आएगा और ज्यादा, ठीक है।
Correct.
तो वो आप उनकी ऑर्डर बुक देखो लास्ट 3 years में, एंड देयर इज लिटरली इन सम प्लेसेस देयर इज एक्चुअली शॉर्टेज ऑफ ट्रांसफॉर्मर्स। तो आपका मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन ऐसे होगा। आप अगर कोई कंपनी टावर ग्रिड बना रही है, यू सी द ऑर्डर बुक ऑफ दीज कंपनीज व्हिच दे आर गेटिंग फ्रॉम अदर पावर ईपीसी कंपनीज, तो वो काफी इंक्रीज हो गई है। अगर आप पावर फाइनेंस कंपनीज का देखोगे, तो देयर लोन डिसबर्समेंट ओवर द इयर्स, अभी लास्ट 2 years में आप देखोगे तो इट हैज इंक्रीज इन सम कंपनीज, इट हैज इंक्रीज फ्रॉम से 37,000 crores to 50,000 crores, that kind of an order book in just 1 year. It's huge increase, right? So people are this lot of investment across the sector is happening. अगर आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, आपको क्या करना होता है, जब आप ट्रांसमिशन करते हैं ना, तो एक सबस्टेशन बनता है जहाँ पे आपको ट्रांसफॉर्मर का नीड होता है। तो आपको उस करंट स्टेप डाउन करके ट्रांसमिट करके एक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन साइड पे वापस एक सबस्टेशन लगता है जहाँ पे ट्रांसफॉर्मर्स यूज होते हैं। सो इसके बीच में जब आप जेनरेट कर रहे हो पावर और ट्रांसमिशन लाइन तक डाल रहे हो, तब आपकी ईएचवी केबल यूज होते हैं। तो दोज सेगमेंट segments, there are very few players in the country who are making EHV right now, and all these cable companies are also into expansion phase. तो अगर आप वहां पे देखोगे ना, तो वहां पे जो ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ EHV केबल्स है, बिकॉज इट्स अ लिटिल कॉम्प्लेक्स बिजनेस. अगर आप LT वायर बना रहे हो या आप EHV का केबल बना रहे हो ना, जो हाई पावर को आपको ट्रांसमिट करना है, वो बहुत थोड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स बिजनेस होता है. तो वहां पे उसकी जो ग्रोथ है, केबल इंडस्ट्री एज अ होल की जो ग्रोथ है, एंड आप कोई की एआई देख लो, आप पोलीकैप देख लो, यूनिवर्सल, ऑल दीज कंपनीज आर जस्ट फॉर एजुकेशन पर्पस. पर मैं आपको बता रही हूँ वो लोग कितना केपेक्स कर रहे हैं, विच एक्चुअली टेल्स यू दैट लॉट ऑफ एक्टिविटीज आर हैपनिंग इन दिस सेक्टर. और
Correct.
जबकि इंडिया हैज बीन एट द फोरफ्रंट ऑफ अडॉप्टिंग सोलर. अभी यूएस और यूरोप में तो इकोसिस्टम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का बिल्टअप हो रहा है, अदरवाइज तो वो लोग भी इम्पोर्ट ही कर रहे हैं. तो ये वाला जो सिनेरियो, जैसे अभी ये वाला तो ट्रांसमिशन साइड हो गया. अब आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन साइड पे जाओगे, तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन साइड पे अपन को पावर डिस्कॉम्स आर फेस लॉस, बिकॉज द पावर मीटर रीडिंग इज नॉट वेरी गुड. आई मीन आपको,
Correct.
हाँ, तो वो वाले साइड पे जब आप स्मार्ट मीटर्स का जो डिप्लॉयमेंट देखते हैं ना अपन, जैसे इंडिया में जीनस है, HPL है, इन ऑल दीज कंपनीज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज दैट इफ यू सी द ऑर्डर बुक, 300 crores 200 crores होती थी, अभी अचानक 1200 करोड़ हो गई है.
4x.
1200 crores order book because of smart. So 25 crores smart meters अगर अपन को deploy करने हैं, we need to replace conventional meters, and investments are happening now. अभी धीरे धीरे एग्जीक्यूशन भी धीरे धीरे ही होगा, बट हो रहा है अभी. ठीक है. तो हम लोग ने जैसे एक प्राइवेट कंपनी एनालाइज की थी, किम्बल टेक्नोलॉजीज, दैट इज इनटू स्मार्ट मीटर्स. That company itself, we did it in a private fundraise. So when we visited them, phenomenal promoters, phenomenal, and their size is what, they must be doing what, 150 crores, and their order book is of around 3000 crores right now. So
Oh,
people, there's a thing is that people who have developed, they have worked so hard over the years, on 7-8 years on this side, and when the time has come, they can actually, develop and go through. So the thing is, investment across sectors is happening, which looks very very interesting across the sector. So if activities brew, across the value chain, you think that okay, this team is going to do well. So this is
so
how
I have one question. So, as a research analyst, how do you identify these technical things? Like, do you study them? Do you have a consultant, or like, how do you understand how this power distribution works?
वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. आई मीन केमिकल्स होता है या ये पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, तो हम लोग को क्या करना होता है कि आई वी विजिट अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपोज. तो वन थिंग व्हिच हैज रियली रियली हेल्प मी इज यू टॉक टू पीपल हु आर इनटू दिस बिजनेस. देयर आर समटाइम्स, all these big companies also exhibit in expos. There are smaller companies who exhibit in expos, exhibitions that I'm talking about. You go talk to them, they'll explain you their products, and they'll explain you, you network with them, you talk to them, you understand things from them. And what happens is that, this smart meter thing, how this whole data reading happens, apart from, the companies that you have visited, you go to the expos, you explain, these companies actually explain you very well. You get to know the demand scenario, because in there, if you are talking to 15-20 people at a time, you will get to know, because the smaller players are also guiding of something, the larger players are also guiding. So if the smaller players are also speaking good about the larger players, or the smaller players are actually, showing good kind of a growth, or maybe they are also saying that okay, the traction is very good, then you think that, overall आपका demand scenario बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है. तो
Got it.
वैसे, I lot of ideas and lot of conviction actually comes through talking to people also. तो हम लोग तो over time निवेशाय में, one thing that we have done is we have followed our research process, which is intact. I mean, we have not changed. Our strategy must have changed. Our process must have got refined a bit with time, which, investors have to evolve, and if they evolve, it's the best thing. Don't have any biases. But what remained intact is that we have over time developed a lot of entrepreneur circle. So even when we onboard a client, or whenever we are speaking to any of our subscribers or investors or anyone, we tend to ask them also that, how what kind of a work do you do, because that's how you get to know more about the
Basically,
industry.
brainstorming ideas from everywhere, every possible
Brainstorming
extent.
ideas, finding connects, talking to people, understanding what they think. So during all these conferences, someone just recently met. He's the dealer in Schneider products. They are in dealing into this power products, and they so basically they tell you that how the brands are playing out, what's it, because that's the on ground reality, right? That I can't just sit at office. And another thing is sometimes just okay, मैंने आपको बोल दिया इसका कैपिटल गुड्स में इतना ग्रोथ होएगा, बट व्हेन यू विजिट नो आदित्य अ site or a plant, this has actually been a personal experience also. You tend to realize हम लोग ने जो भी कैपिटल गुड्स में कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट किया था, वहां पे अगर आप जाके कोई साइट पे देखोगे ना, तो आपको लगेगा ये इतनी छोटी सी साइट पे इतना सारा मोटर्स यूज हो रहा है, इतनी ऐसे रोप्स यूज हो रहा है, गैस ऐसे यूज होता है. समटाइम यू गेट टू नो द बिकॉज आई एम नॉट अ पर्सन, आई एम नॉट एन इंजीनियर, ओके. तो मेरे को गैस नहीं समझ में आते हैं, पर मैंने इन्वेस्ट किया गैस में, बट मैंने समझा कि क्या क्या फैक्टर्स चाहिए होते हैं, क्या क्या चीजें देखनी होती हैं. So it's not like a rocket science, but when you talk to people over time, conviction build up होता है. ऐसे थोड़ा
Even
टाइम
our
लगता है
listeners
फिर.
should go and visit these kind of exhibitions to understand which companies to invest, or at least understand what is happening on ground, where even the company themselves want to explain you how do they work and what business they do.
Yeah, you get to talk to so many, actually the production people, production managers, if they are there, they will explain you in great detail. And then you can definitely call them, ask them, schedule a meeting with them, and then understand, because they are the ones who are into the business day in day out. So anyone, and must be sales guys, must be knowing that how other people in the industry are performing, how other people are doing. So all those variety of people you meet, and you get to know the idea. So this exhibition visits, talking to people has really helped. Visit to the plant, meeting different
Correct.
people actually tells you, maybe sometimes it inspires you also. People are doing such great work in life that setting up such huge plans, doing this kind of a business, how focused they are. So it's pretty interesting. This is the best type of best part of the work, I would say, we do.
As we are on green energy topic, users are asking whether this is the right time to invest in green energy. Should they hold their investments? What should they do with green energy small case? So, can you reflect some light on it?
So right now, what we recommend to our see, green energy is a very thematic portfolio. So one should, it should be a part of your portfolio and not your whole portfolios, okay? Because कोई भी पोर्टफोलियो जब थीमेटिक होता है ना, तो फिर आपका रिस्क बहुत बढ़ जाता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ, मैं आपको कितना भी बोल रही हूँ, अभी पावर सेक्टर अच्छा चल रहा है, सब अच्छा कर रहा है, पर अगेन दैट हैज सर्टेन रिस्क ऑफ कंसंट्रेशन इन एनी बिजनेस ना. तो हमेशा आपको इसको पार्ट ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो बनाना है, ना कि पूरा पोर्टफोलियो बनाना है. तो अगर आप इन्वेस्ट करें तो आप 3-4% आपके टोटल का यू कैन इन्वेस्ट इन ग्रीन एनर्जी स्मॉल केस. Right now, this I was just explaining कि this theme is a very long term theme. तो we will keep a lot of activities. हम लोग तो अभी प्राइवेट साइड में भी, सोलर साइड में इतनी कंपनीज देखते हैं, दे वांट टू कम अप विद फंड रेज. सोलर सेल साइड अभी एलएमएम भी आ गया है. तो डोमेस्टिक इंक्रीज इन प्रोडक्शन, हाउ दीज कंपनीज हैव स्केल्ड अप, the installation on the EPC side of the solar. अगर आप वारी रिन्यूएबल्स टेक करके, जो वारी एनर्जीज की कंपनी जो लिस्टेड है, वो BSE लिस्टेड है, तो वो कंपनी में अगर आप देखोगे तो पहले कुछ भी, मतलब दे यूज्ड टू डू व्हाट 6 crore revenue, 13 crore revenue, and now the order book has shot up to 3 gigawatts almost. The pipeline is of 9 gigawatts. The revenue number has reached around 300 crores. So lot of EPC projects, lot of installation, lot of activities on the solar chain is happening. तो आप ये देखोगे ना कि अगर मॉड्यूल प्रोडक्शन, जैसे कोई भी कंट्री में ना, आपको पहले मेन चीज बनाना स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा, आपको असेंबली बिजनेस करना पड़ेगा. तो असेंबली अगर मॉड्यूल का हो रहा है ना, तो आप जाके प्रॉफिट पूल बना के यू कैन एक्चुअली एंटर द इंटीग्रेटेड, यू कैन गो बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन, विच इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. Agar if you see lot of module players who have scaled up, like Vari Energies, Premier, and all these companies, they have pooled their capital, uh, they have pooled their profits, module scale up karke, now they are integrating, and eventually who has their own raw material security will flourish, because it helps in increasing your margins, it helps in reducing your working capital, it helps in reducing your, because all this cell manufacturing and then you go backward, ingot, wafers, polysilicon, it is a very very capital intensive business, it is a very difficult business than what module manufacturing is comparatively, right? So वो धीरे धीरे सेटअप हो रहा है जो इंडिया में हो रहा है अभी। तो आपको पहले फाइनल प्रोडक्ट सेटअप करना पड़ेगा। तो ये जो ट्रेंड मैं बताना चाह रही हूँ कि दिस ट्रेंड लुक्स वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। तो डेफिनेटली इट्स अ गुड थीम टू प्ले आउट, पर हम लोग थोड़ा धीरे धीरे डिप्लॉयमेंट सजेस्ट करेंगे एंड नॉट जस्ट टुगेदर आप पूरा का पूरा अभी एक साथ डाल दो, दैट वी आर नॉट सजेस्टिंग बिकॉज वी इन्वेस्ट इन मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप विच हैज हाई वैल्यूएशंस राइट नाउ। सो धीरे धीरे, बट द थीम्स लुक इंटरेस्टिंग टू अस। So if you can incorporate, not invest in lump sum, but slowly and steadily you can invest. And green energy should be a part of your portfolio. It should not be your entire portfolio. Mid and
Correct.
small cap is actually, our flagship, where we have this kind of a theme of make in India, energy transition, consumption. तो ये सारे sectors का एक जो diversified portfolio we have made is mid and small cap. Otherwise, all the other three small cases are thematic ones.
Got it. So basically, invest in green energy, but don't make your 100% portfolio as green energy themed portfolio, because that will be too much of a risk.
Too much of a risk. So you should have a when you're starting out investment, you should have a diversified thing and not a very concentrated portfolio.
We are talking of capex investment. So Foxconn is coming into India. Apple manufacturing is getting set up in a huge way in Chennai. A lot of Apple imports have stopped, and India is making the products in-house. There is a shift towards Indianization. So what do you think? What kind of companies will benefit from this shift, and what do you see the future ahead for this? Like even Tata is setting up a plant for Apple manufacturing. They have got a license from Apple to manufacturing it in India.
Yeah, lot of, I mean, आप देखोगे ना, the government has been, post, I would say post COVID also, if you see this company called Dixon, okay, तो कुछ नहीं होता था उस कंपनी में, but
Correct.
then when you say that, it's a proper volume based story that has happened post COVID, if you see the numbers, उसको बोलते हैं ना कि इंडिजिनाइजेशन कैसे प्ले आउट हुआ है ना इन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, इट्स अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल टू सी। और इंडिया में बहुत ज्यादा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मैन्युफैक्चरर्स लिस्टेड मार्केट्स में नहीं थे तब तक। तो अभी भी आप देखोगे ना, वन पॉइंट इज कि इंडिया में जो रिसेंटली भी आईपीओज आए हैं ना, आप देखो वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग साइड पे 50 लास्ट ईयर अगर कोई आईपीओ आया तो 60%, मोर देन 60% ऑफ द आईपीओज वर इन B2B स्पेस। lot of IPOs have come up in EMS last 5 years का आप trajectory निकालोगे तो फिर 55% approximately were into B2B manufacturing, the IPOs, and 40-50% of the IPO size was in this small cap space, which is around 250-750 crores kind of a market cap kind of a scenario. And all these sectors, EMS, defense, chemicals, and all these sectors where there is a boost to domestic manufacturing that have also come up. तो अगर आप ये देखोगे ना कि इंडिजिनाइजेशन, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट हैव व्हाट हैज ट्राइड, डिक्सन का जो मैं आपको स्टोरी बता रही थी, सिमिलर स्टोरीज दैट एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू आर थिंकिंग कि अगर इंडिजिनाइजेशन इंक्रीज होता है तो वो कैसे, क्योंकि अभी तक क्या हो रहा था कि आपको पहले मैंने अभी जैसे मॉड्यूल में बताया ना, वैसे आपको फाइनल असेंबली, इंडिया वाज अ नेट इंपोर्टर, वी डिड नेवर एक्चुअली प्रोड्यूस एनी मोबाइल फोन्स इन since 2013-14 we was actually nothing, and now we are the second largest exporter. We from a net importer we have turned out to be a net exporter. तो आप हमेशा सब लोग ये बोलते हैं कि इंडिया में तो ये वाला चीज तो डेवलप ही नहीं हो सकता, ये बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स पर कॉम्प्लेक्स इंजीनियरिंग को लाने के लिए आपको पहले सिंपल तो करना पड़ेगा ना। अगर आप सिंपल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ही इंडिया में स्केल अप नहीं करोगे तो फिर कॉम्प्लेक्स आते आते तो एक साथ तो कोई आपको एकदम सेमीकंडक्टर चिप बना के नहीं देगा ना, वो पूरा इकोसिस्टम डेवलप करना पड़ेगा, एंड वी आर इन बिल्डिंग दैट इकोसिस्टम राइट नाउ। तो अगर आप मोबाइल फोन असेंबली अगर इंडिया में इतनी फुल फ्लेज पे स्टार्ट हुई है, आप देखोगे तो उसके बाद इकोसिस्टम विल डेवलप फॉर कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग। मैं तो नहीं बोल सकती कि चलो आज फटाफट बैठ के तो सोलर मॉड्यूल के लिए वो पॉली सिलिकॉन सबका प्लांट लगा देते, सेल का प्लांट, पर मेरे पास फाइनल आई कांट गो बिकॉज इट्स वेरी इजी टू सेल इन इंडिया देन जस्ट एक्सपोर्ट बिकॉज वी आर वेरी यूज्ड टू दिस एनवायरनमेंट। तो मैं तुरंत जाके हर जगह I have to like go, I don't know, I don't have this ecosystem to sell. तो पहले आप सिंपल से स्टार्ट करोगे, जब आपका फिनिश्ड प्रोडक्ट का सेल्स का स्केल इतना बड़ा हो गया है, तो अब वो लोग कंपनीज बोल रहे हैं ना कि हमें इंडिजिनाइजेशन करना है, हमें डोमेस्टिक सोर्सिंग करनी है। और डोमेस्टिक सोर्सिंग का भी ना 5 एडवांटेजेस अलग होते हैं। योर लीड टाइम रिड्यूसेस, योर वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल रिड्यूसेस, your balance sheet becomes much better in terms of cash conversion cycle, in terms of maintaining your working capital cycle, it becomes very leaner. तो अब क्या हो रहा है ना कि जब जैसे we have lot of electronic companies, boat and all these who are into domestic manufacturing, they do that we actually source 60-70% from domestic. आप एसी कंपनीज का एग्जांपल देख लो। एसी में जब जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मैन्युफैक्चर, तो ऑल दीज ब्रांड्स वोल्टास, ब्लू स्टार, ये लोग कोई भी अपना दे डोंट मैन्युफैक्चर देयर ओन एसी। they have contract manufacturers and companies like Amber, companies like PG Electroplast, अभी जो EPAC करके कंपनी अभी लिस्ट हुई है। So these are the guys, virtual. So these are the guys who are actually manufacturing ACs for them. They are assembling line, and then slowly from assembly to component manufacturing, they have actually integrated. तो जो भी heat exchanger, PCB board, सर्किट बोर्ड, ये जो भी यूज होते थे ना पहले इंडिया में, वो इम्पोर्ट होते थे। अब आप देखोगे मोटर्स, हीट एक्सचेंजर्स, सब पीपल हैव स्टार्टेड मेकिंग देयर ओन मोटर्स। ये लोग सब कंपोनेंट इंडस्ट्री में जा चुके हैं। तो वहां पे फेयर शेयर ऑफ इंडिजिनाइजेशन इंक्रीज हुआ है। तो अभी आप जो पीसीबी बोर्ड, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक में, ऑल दीज आर द सनराइज सेक्टर्स फॉर इंडिया। अगर आपको इतना एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट पे इतना, मतलब इफ यू वांट your to reach this $10 trillion economy by 2030, जीडीपी एक्सपोर्ट इतना होना चाहिए, तो ये सब सेक्टर्स से ही एक्सपोर्ट कंट्रीब्यूशन आएगा। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग विल बी अ बिग कंट्रीब्यूटर टुवर्ड्स अस रीचिंग दैट टारगेट। तो अभी आप पीसीबी बोर्ड की कंपनी जैसे लास्ट ईयर केन, सायरमा, ये लोग लिस्ट हुए थे, आप इनकी ऑर्डर बुक देखो, ऑर्डर बुक हैज इंक्रीज 7-8 टाइम्स इन व्हाट इन नो टाइम। 8-10 years, 3-4 years में इतना इंक्रीज हो गया है। एंड नाउ बेसिकली दिस टेल्स अस, हम लोग जो स्मार्ट मीटर कंपनीज और इनमें भी विजिट के, एवरीबडी वांट्स टू हैव देयर ओन सप्लाई फ्रॉम द लोकल मार्केट, बिकॉज इससे आपकी सोर्सिंग बेटर हो जाती है, आपका सप्लायर के साथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स बेटर कर पाते हो आप, तो आपका जो सप्लाइंग प्राइस है ये सब आप बेटर सोर्स कर पाते हो। तो अगर ये चीज हो रही है ना, तो आप पीसीबी बोर्ड में ये सब कंपनी में देखो, अभी जो कंपनी 200 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू फॉर 4-5 years, 6 years कर रही है, they have an order book of 400 crores, bid pipeline is of around 6,000 crores. So you see the kind of growth, 20-25% CAGR growth for electronic markets is not a it's not a small thing. I mean, it's a big growth that can come in. Already grow kar raha hai, it can grow very fast. There are certain hiccups in the businesses that one needs to understand. बट जो इकोसिस्टम ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बिल्ड हो रहा है ना, अपने यहाँ पे इतने सेक्टर्स का वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, कैपिटल गुड्स, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ईएमएस, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट हाउ डिफेंस, इंडिजिनाइजेशन एंड डिफेंस। आपका अगर आप ये सब देखोगे कि जो डोमेस्टिक रिक्वायरमेंट है, हाउ इट हैज इंक्रीज्ड from 30% to 50% in the recent policy. तो उससे the sourcing, if you talk to these players, there was this defense expo that was there, that was held in Gandhinagar. So you talk to these people ना आदित्य, आप उनसे बात करोगे, उनकी आंख में एक अलग चमक होती है जब वो लोग वो बात कर रहे थे कि मेक इन इंडिया इज समथिंग विच इज रियली हैपनिंग इन दिस सेक्टर। So when we visited them 1.5 year back, आप अक्रॉस बहुत बड़ा एक्सपो था, आप सबसे बात करो, आपको सबसे यही आइडिया मिल रहा था कि मेक इन इंडिया हो रहा है। एंड दीज कंपनीज इंडिजिनाइजेशन सोर्सिंग, आप ऐसे जाके बोलोगे ना कि भाई ये पॉलिसीज तो आ गई, बिकॉज वी ऑलवेज हैव दिस थिंग दैट गवर्नमेंट इज कमिंग अप विद पॉलिसी, इंप्लीमेंट हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, बट यू सी दिस टाइम all of them, none of one tall person also did not tell me anything negative about it. तो मैंने बोला इंडिजिनाइजेशन तो, एंड दीज आर द वंस हु आर एग्जीक्यूट। अब फिर आपको नंबर्स में भी दिख रहा है ना, ऐसा नहीं, आप एग्जीक्यूशन रेट देखो, अगर पहले 30% ऑफ द ऑर्डर बुक एक साल में होती थी, तो अब वो इंक्रीज होके हुई है 30। अब यू कैन नॉट एक्सपेक्ट रॉकेट साइंस कि वो पूरा ही 50-60% हो जाए एक बार में, बिकॉज ऑल दिस टेक्स टाइम। तो पर वो आपको ट्रेजेक्ट्री दिख रही है ना, तो आपको ये चीजें इंडिजिनाइज, मतलब बहुत सारी जगह पे ये भी फैक्टर हो रहा है अभी कि जो बाहर की मशीनरीज होती हैं, ठीक है, तो अगर आप ये कैपिटल गुड्स में फूड प्रोसेसिंग इक्विपमेंट्स जैसी कोई कंपनी है जो जनरली ऑल दिस कन्फेक्शनरी एंड स्पाइस प्लेयर्स, दे इम्पोर्ट, दे वांट जर्मन मशीन्स, दे वांट यूरोपियन मशीन्स, इटालियन मशीन्स, पर उन लोगों का कॉस्ट एंड companies that in India are producing, there is this company, Axtel Limited. Again, it's a very small company based out of based out of Baroda. Again, it's not a recommendation, but मैं आपको story बताने के लिए बता रही हूँ कि the equipments that they make are 30-40% cheaper than the German counterparts. एंड वंस यू, बिकॉज कोविड और सप्लाई चेन ने क्या किया ना कि उन लोगों को चांस भी दिया, बहुत सारी मोटर कंपनीज को, बहुत सारी गैस कंपनी को, दे हैव गिवन दिस काइंड ऑफ एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू यूज इट, एंड वंस दे यूज इट देन दे थॉट दैट कॉस्ट भी कम लग रहा है, सर्विस भी अच्छी मिल रही है और क्वालिटी भी ऐड पा रहे, बिकॉज ऑल दी स्पाइस प्लेयर्स और कन्फेक्शनरी प्लेयर्स, दे वुड वांट देयर मशीनरीज टू बी ऑफ A1 क्वालिटी, बिकॉज दे कांट अफोर्ड ब्रेकडाउन्स। तो अगर उनको कोई लोकल प्रोवाइडर, डोमेस्टिक प्रोवाइडर ही दे रहा है जिससे उनका सर्विस बेटर हो रहा है, उनको इफ देयर इज एनी ब्रेकडाउन दे आर गेटिंग इट तो 30-40% चीपर। अगर आपको कोई प्रोडक्ट मिल रहा है गुड क्वालिटी एंड इट हैज बिल्ट अ ब्रांड नेम, आप कोई भी प्लेयर से जाके बात कर लो ना, दे स्पीक सो हाईली अबाउट देम। तो मैंने बोला कि अगर ये, दिस इज व्हाट इज इंपोर्ट सब्स्टिट्यूशन, राइट? पीपल हैव ट्राइड यूजिंग द प्रोडक्ट, दे लाइक्ड इट एंड दे हैव बीन इन द इंडस्ट्री सिंस सो मेनी इयर्स। तो अगर ये अपॉर्चुनिटी आप कोविड के टाइम पे ना, जब मोटर्स और ये सब जब जो कंपनीज इंपोर्ट करती थी, तो हमने क्या किया था, हमने डेटा निकाला कि कैसे, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट केपेक्स इंक्रीज हो रहा था, हमने डेटा निकाला स्टील कैसे इंक्रीज हो रहा है, सीमेंट कैसे इंक्रीज हो रहा है, power side क्या capex हो रहा है. So we found that all these companies, we studied these companies, we analyzed that okay, all these companies are into expansionary phase, and we have actually talked to few dealers here, few people who have used this gas of Elecon Engineering, for example. So they used that and we got very good review, and it's been an old traditional business. आप उसका रेवेन्यू देखो, कुछ नहीं किया है 10 साल तक. They were into 1,200 crores revenue, nothing. But when the time came for them, and again, I mean, आप लोगों से बात करके देखोगे तो ग्रोथ आ रही थी. You would realize उनके पास 38% market share. They have the largest SKUs. Sometimes having the largest SKUs in any business, large number of SKUs also helps, and this is one industry where it helped. बिकॉज वो लोग को सब टाइप ऑफ गैस को मिला के गेयर बॉक्स बनाते हैं जिससे उनके मार्जिन बेटर हो जाते हैं. बिकॉज वी प्रेफर कंपनीज वेयर थोड़े एसकेयूज कम हो तो बेटर रहता है, बिकॉज working capital requirement better. But in some industries you cannot have this checklist in manufacturing ever that ये होगा तो ये करना है, ऐसा नहीं होएगा. So you should not have that kind of a checklist, otherwise growth opportunity, because इंडिया में ना आपको बहुत सिंपल बिजनेसेस भी मिल जाते हैं कि वो, यू हैव टू सी हाउ इट स्केल्स अप.
करेक्ट.
आपको वो देखना है. तो अगर मैं उतनी चेकलिस्ट बना के काम करूंगी ना, देन आई वुड हैव मिस्ड एलिकॉन इंजीनियरिंग और वी वुड हैव मिस्ड ऑल दीज कंपनीज, बिकॉज मार्केट साइज बहुत छोटा होता है पर क्वालिटी ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट एंड एसकेयूज ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट इज वेरी गुड. तो इसमें जो ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज प्ले हुआ था. सो आई अटेंडेड दिस वर्कशॉप of at Flame University, where actually one thing that Sanjay Bakshi sir actually explained us, the fantastic 5 combination play. And whenever there is a company giving you an advantage of operating leverage, where it is giving you an advantage of there is a debt reduction, tax पहले बहुत लॉस करे थे, tax loss अगर है तो accumulated tax loss, because then you don't have to pay if you become profitable. Then all these plays, if it is a restructuring kind of a scenario, if it is happening, so these margin expansion with operating volume increase. So if this is happening, he calls this as a fantastic 5 combination play. It completely clicked me. तो वो वाला जब चीजें होता है ना कोई भी कंपनी में, the multiplier effect is very huge. And in manufacturing, you can definitely find, in some of the other sectors, you can find such kind of a play where the company is operating at a lower capacity utilization, and when the market tailwind comes in, and specifically in the ancillary play you can find it. अगर आपको लग रहा है कि इंफ्रा सेक्टर अच्छा करने वाला है, स्टील अच्छा करने वाला है, तो अगर आप उसका कोई स्टील का भी कोई एंसिलरी प्ले करोगे ना, तो यू विल डेफिनेटली फाइंड companies where you can increase the capacity utilization, and that's how the margins expand and all these things play out. So this combination of five things actually happened in Elecon engineering, and that's how it played out. So आपको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ऐसे वाले प्लेस काफी मिल जाते हैं.
So retail
uh,
investors कैसे ढूंढ सकते हैं ऐसे players? Like how do retail investors from the resources that are available, right? Either money control or screener. How do they identify such kind of manufacturing companies? And what are the top three factors in a manufacturing company a retail investor should look at if he wants to do his own research?
So for them now, first you identify, okay, which sector you want to do it. So now for that, what you do is one thing is observe the trends. Second is you have to screen data through government policies. जैसे मैंने अभी बताया कि how government has been track. आप एक list बना लो ना sectors की कि क्या क्या universe में manufacturing sector, to see how much capex is happening. जैसे कोई भी oil and gas refinery, if you see there has been so much capex happening in that sector. तो उसमें what one should do is find niche players. मैंने बोला अगर एक एक मैं आपको सिंपल प्ले एक्सप्लेन करती हूँ कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक्टिविटीज वी थॉट विल इंक्रीज. ये तो हर बंदा जो भी इन्वेस्टिंग कर रहा है ना वो ऑब्जर्व करके बोल देगा कि
Correct.
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक्टिविटी इंक्रीज हो रही है. ठीक है, तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक्टिविटी इंक्रीज करिए. अगर आप थोड़ा रोड पे भी जाओगे ना तो देयर इज दिस कंपनी कॉल्ड एज कंस्ट्रक्शन, एक्शन
Correct.
कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट लिमिटेड. तो मैं तो उसको अगर थोड़ा सा ट्रेंड अपन आजू बाजू देखेंगे ना, यू विल फाइंड देयर क्रेन्स. मतलब वो आपको कोई ना कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे उनका क्रेन दिख ही जाता है. जस्ट ट्राई एंड सी कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन दिस इंडस्ट्री. तो अभी जो उनके जो एस के जो क्रेन रजिस्ट्रेशन जो लास्ट ईयर 2020-21 अराउंड कुछ अगर 500 पर मंथ होते थे, 500-550, नाउ दिस नंबर हैज रीच टू 1000 रजिस्ट्रेशंस ऑफ एस इक्विपमेंट्स. वो तो कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट की ऐसे सेल बढ़ी. पर मेरे को अगर लार्ज प्ले नहीं, मतलब मेरे को ब्रॉडर सेक्टर आइडेंटिफाई, इसमें क्या होता है कि क्रेन प्ले करने के लिए मेरे पास मार्केट शेयर इसका बहुत ज्यादा है, 60-70%. मैं आपको क्यों क्रेन के थ्रू या ऐसे बोलती हूँ क्योंकि उधर नीश मार्केट है. देर आर नॉट सो मेनी प्लेयर्स. इट इज एन इनडायरेक्ट वे ऑफ प्लेइंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. इट इज एन इनडायरेक्ट
Correct.
वे ऑफ प्लेइंग रियल एस्टेट. आपको रियल एस्टेट में यू विल फाइंड लॉट ऑफ वेरिएबल्स, यू विल फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ कंपनीज, कॉम्पिटिशन स्पेस बहुत ज्यादा है. पर आपको ये प्ले करना है ना तो आप एक कंपनी पे नहीं प्ले कर रहे हो, आप एंटायर सेक्टर पे प्ले कर रहे हो.
Correct.
तो मेरा क्रेन बॉम्बे की कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी में भी जाएगा, तो मेरा क्रेन ये वाला क्रेन हैदराबाद में भी जाएगा, बैंगलोर. तो सो मेनी वेरिड customers, right? I'm playing on the entire sector rather than just playing on one thing. अगर आप if somebody thinks that infrastructure is doing well, तो आपको लगेगा कि मेटल का डिमांड इंक्रीज होगा, स्टील साइकिल अच्छा. तो आप ये आइडेंटिफाई कर, स्टील साइकिल इज वेरी वोलेटाइल. इफ एनीबडी कम्स अप कि देखेगा वो स्टील कंपनीज, द प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इज एक्चुअली वेरी वोलेटाइल, है ना. तो आप अगर उसमें रॉ मटेरियल का कोई, जैसे मैंने आपको रेन इंडस्ट्रीज का एग्जांपल दिया था, वो थोड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, पर मैं आपको बता रही रीफैक्ट्रीज करके है. तो यू विल फाइंड वेरी फ्यू प्लेयर्स प्रोवाइडिंग रीफैक्ट्रीज टू द स्टील मैन्युफैक्चरर्स. तो वहां पे यू विल हैव लेस डिसरप्शन. और how much ever the profitability moves or how much ever it is volatile, the steel production numbers will remain steady. It will
Correct.
not drop because they have a very high cost involved in shutting down their plant and all. So आप देखोगे तो numbers बहुत volatile नहीं होंगे. So this is actually the way you can figure out to play on ancillary way, or I mean and observing trends is. और फिर आप देखो कि अगर कोई नेसेंट स्टेज पे होता है ना तो ये सब कंपनीज में कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन लोअर ही होती है. और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ना, हेलो,
Yeah, you're audible.
yeah, so manufacturing you'll have to not see, don't bog down by the past financials. If you see past financials, then you'll skip out a lot of things because these work in cycles. You will find a very good cycle from 2003 to 2008, but then after that there was a muted cycle, and if you see last 10 years numbers तो इसने तो नहीं अच्छा किया है, तो अब कैसे करेगा. Then you will skip out a lot of things in manufacturing because if it is working in cycle, the past financials will not work. You'll have to see the company, you'll have to analyze the management, their journey, how they have evolved during their bad times, what they faced during their tough times, what decisions they made, what capital allocation they made. So that helps you that, when good time comes in, then the things will work out. A lot of companies, in recycling space, if I talk about, they have been developing the business. Recycling was not a trend which has become now. Sustainability has become a trend now, when they were not even, a trend kind of a business. They were just running the business, and still they were running very efficiently. And so when the time for these companies comes in, and if you think that, this is going to be the exponential phase, like I told you, for graphite, it comes in once in a blue, once in a blue moon kind of a scenario. It comes in once in 10 years. This kind of a scenario actually came in. So when the time has come in, if they have done a good setup over the years, then, it just takes off. So the idea is basically to not get bogged down. और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ना एक और चीज होती है, आप लोग को ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स होते हैं, एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स होते हैं. आई टोल्ड यू, कीप इट सिंपल. Don't think, your hope should not be your strategy, is what we have also propagated since a very long time. Hope that things will turn, ऐसा सोच के नहीं करना चाहिए. जैसे ऑयल एंड गैस में इतना रिफाइन, इतना केपेक्स हो रहा था. देयर आर, यू विल फाइंड दिस, कंपनीज लाइक अनूप इंजीनियरिंग, who are into and there are they are into manufacturing of heat exchangers, which is used in refineries. So there are just very few players in the industry. तो आपको फिर ज्यादा प्ले करने के ऑप्शंस भी नहीं है, और ज्यादा प्लेयर्स भी नहीं है. वेरी नीश मार्केट. तो अगर
Correct.
कोई भी ऑयल एंड गैस में हो रहा है, तो वो लोग लेंगे अनूप से. तो ऑर्डर बुक मतलब अदर सप्लायर्स विल आल्सो बी देयर, बट बिकॉज इट हैज अ गुड नेम इन द इंडस्ट्री, सो दे विल गेट सम काइंड ऑफ गुड ऑर्डर्स. मतलब उधर ट्रैक्शन होगा. वो जो ऑर्डर बुक आप देखोगे, उसका ट्रेंड तो हो रहा है.
Got it.
So India has got those kind of companies, and in these kind of place, small and mid cap is, you'll find leaders in this segment, in this space.
I have some questions from the subscribers, so I'll take them up. So some of them are asking whether it is a good time to do SIP into green energy small case. Like, is it better to do SIPs into green energy considering the current market environment?
It is better to go through the SIP route, but right now we would recommend that, we to keep certain amount as cash right now, because we'll be, slowly deploying it. So it's not recommended to and do a very aggressive SIP also, like continuously. It is better to accumulate cash right now, and then maybe at some later point, when the market remains a little volatile, we can deploy it.
Got it. Sanjay Kane is asking, I have 22 lakhs invested into mid and small cap. Should I invest 20 lakhs lump sum or should I like stagger the investments?
You should
He's
stagger
already
the
a subscriber in green and in mid and small cap.
You should right now stagger the investments and keep a large amount as cash. I mean, if you have around 22 lakhs, you can deploy around 50% kind of a thing, and then maybe deploy it later.
So can you throw more light on mid and small cap as a small case? Like who can it be ideal for? Or like what is the split between mid and small cap and green energy that users should have in mind?
Definitely. So, mid and small cap is our flagship portfolio. It has a lot of sectors that come into play, like we have been bullish on. Say, for example, manufacturing, that we just spoke about extensively. Then power, energy transition. Then, we think that because of a lot of manufacturing activities that will happen, it will trickle down to higher discretionary consumption spending. So we have few stocks on the consumption side also. So it's basically mid and small cap is a portfolio of all these diversified sectors, textiles, which the theme that we have been bullish on since a very long time. So all these things, it's an amalgamation of all these sectors. Whereas green energy is a very, very concentrated portfolio, focusing on energy transition, focusing on sustainability, So if anyone who is just starting out with us, or if anyone who is just starting out investing, it is recommended to have a mid and small cap portfolio, because it has a lot of other sectors also and not concentrated on one sector. So a thematic
Got it.
portfolio has its own risk.
So there is one more question. He's asking, why do we have aviation theme in our mid and small cap portfolio? If you could answer it briefly, like what
We
is
do
your
have
take on?
aviation. We do have aviation. I guess we do have indigo in our consumption theme. I think we have. So we have been quite bullish on indigo. So, but again, it's a very large cap country. But we have been bullish on. So we're trying to play it in an ancillary way. Uh, so it's not that we are not aviation theme through, the number of airports are going to increase, the air travel is going to increase. So aviation and indigo looks very very interesting to us, because the kind of market monopoly this company has got, the number of fleets that this company is going to add, and at the same time the operating cash flows that this company is generating right now is in this tough business of airlines is phenomenal. So maybe we'll include it. Yeah.
One last question I'll take. Like, how do you decide whether a company is overvalued or undervalued?
So this is a very very tricky question actually. A lot of times right now, if you just you'll have to go on a, I don't know, everyone has, there are numerous ways of making money in markets, but a lot of times what happens is, sectors like this which are throwing out good growth, which can turn out, you will definitely find some kind of a high valuation in this company right now. Capital goods and all these companies are trading at what, 30 multiple, 40 multiple valuations, are literally in some segments crazy. But if they can sustain those kind of earnings, you should always, valuation should be a part of your consideration, but you should always see what kind of growth that the company can cater to, because these days it's very very difficult to find a very very you know cheap company, but then you tend to miss out the rally, because the growth that these companies actually show is enormous. You can see examples in the transformer companies. You think that the valuations have increased, but the runway for growth for these companies is so much, in terms of opportunity size, in terms of exports, in terms of domestic consumption. It's very very huge. So I mean, that should not be, of course, if it's very very crazy valuation, then just shift it. I mean, capital goods cannot trade at a FMCG valuations for sure, of around 60 70 multiple. So
Correct.
that's very tricky. I mean, when to sell, how to, it's a very tricky solution, Aditya. I mean, you'll have to gauge the alternate opportunities. And overvaluation, undervaluation is also, if two of us are sitting together, it might be completely different for both of us, right? I will see more of the growth side. The other person can just see, it's okay, the valuation is very very expensive. But I would say that, okay, this, and so sometimes, what happens is, the valuation, why are they commanding that kind of a valuation also, you one should see. Because
Correct.
if the company is into a niche segment, having a very good brand name, and it has a huge runway, you will not find a company at a very reasonable valuation. If you are tracking it at beyond the time when the numbers are coming, you will not find it. Then you'll have to see the growth part. So
Correct.
why the valuation multiples can sustain or not, you should also consider those things as
So
well.
for users, if you want to understand over and under valuation, rather you can subscribe to Niveshaay small cases, get their regular updates. Whenever they want to exit a portfolio, you will get that the company is overvalued or hit the right valuation, and you can follow their strategy.
Yes, yes, yes. You will get to know why are we, maybe selling or anything, the reasons of it. Yeah.
One more question. What percentage overlap is there between green energy to mid and small cap in terms of stocks that are similar in both portfolios? If you can give.
Green energy and mid and small cap, the overlap would not be very high. It will be around 20-25% maybe.
Okay.
On the higher side, I'm saying. It will not be a lot.
So at
Maybe
max, it will be
for the
20%.
high allocation, at max, it would be around this much.
Sure. Are there any parting remarks that you want to share with your subscribers on how to invest in the new financial year and what caution to take? Because recently, small and mid cap saw some profit booking and corrections. Also, many mutual funds are restricting lump sum investment into this theme currently. So, what are your take for our investors?
So I would say that we are in a little in times where lot of growth opportunities are coming. We have just discussed so many sectors extensively. There are few lot of other sectors on this segment also which is coming up. So India is on a very good growth path, but there would be a little hiccups in terms, it's not going to be in terms of stock markets, also in terms of it works like businesses, right? There would be some kind of an hiccup, but it's a very, very good time to stay invested in India. For this financial year, as you know, we have been continuously guiding to our subscribers also. Like last year in Feb, we told them to invest lump sum. Right now, what we're suggesting is we'll deploy capital slowly. So if you have, do SIP, but if you have a lump sum amount right now, just invest around 40-50% right now, and then we'll slowly build up your portfolio, slowly start investing. Because in the new times, and now the quarterly results season has also started. It will start from next week. So let's see what this result season actually comes up with. So Q4 is supposed to be a good season for capital goods. It is supposed to be a good season for infra activities. So let's see how it comes out to be. And again, it looks to be a very, very interesting scenario where so many sectors are showing up good growth, and new sectors are actually opening. So, and we have been lucky enough to get those opportunities and invest in. So the request is to stay invested, don't get bogged down with and uh, just continuously invest. It's that.
So basically, keep on staying invested. Do not get scared by volatility, and even if there are some corrections, you can always shift into your small case and average your portfolios.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you, Gunjan. Thank you for the session. I can really understand what kind of comprehensive grasp you have on the kind of portfolio companies that you manage. Because talking technicals is difficult. It is not easy to talk technicals.
Thank you so much, Aditya. It was. I hope the investors actually found it very insightful, and looking forward to interact with them in future. So yeah,
So thank you, everyone. Have a great day and stay tuned to Small Case YouTube channel for such interesting webinars. Thank you and bye.
thank you so much for joining in on Sunday. Yeah, thank you.